with the Bhagavatam verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vidharma paradharmascha abhasa upama chala adharma sakha panchema dharmagyo dharmavatyajat vidharma paradharmascha abhasa upama chala adharma sakha panchema dharmagyo dharmavatyajat. Prabhus. Vidharma parma dharmascha machaka panchema dharmagyo dharmavatyajat dharma paradharmascha abhasupama chala dharma sakha panchema dharmagyo dharmavatyajat vidharma paradharmascha upamachala dharma chema dharmaste. Mataji's anyone? Okay, maybe. Okay, Hare Krishna. Vidharma, a religion. Paradharma, religious principles practiced by others. Cha, and abhasa, pretentious religious principles. Upama, principles that appeared religious but are not. Chalaha, a cheating religion. Adharma, adharma sakha, which are different branches of a religion. Pancha, five. Ima, these. Dharmagya, one who is aware of religious principles. Adharmavat, accepting them as irreligious. Tyajat, should give up. So, translation by Srila Prabhupada. These five branches of a religion, appropriately known as a religion, vidharma, religious principles for which one is unfit, paradharma, pretentious religion, abhasa, analogical religion, upadharma, and cheating religion, chaladharma. One who is aware of real religious life must abandon these five as irreligious. Sorry, get it right. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any religious principles opposed to the principle of surrendering to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, are to be considered religious principles of irregularity or cheating, and one who is actually interested in religion must give them up. One should simply follow the instructions of Krishna and surrender unto him. To do this, of course, one needs very good intelligence, which may be awakened after many, many births through good association with devotees and the practice of Krishna consciousness. Everything but the principle of religion recommended by Krishna, Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja, should be given up as irreligion. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this verse, very powerful, cutting verse. You know, you can imagine if someone's got a sword and you got to clean something up. This verse and purport is very powerful. Prabhupada gets straight to the point. No messing around here. So as I was reflecting on this verse, first of all, when I was practicing the verse, I almost used the word upama as upma, and I got very hungry because upma is a South Indian dish we probably generally like, and I was getting it wrong. I was like upama, and it's like upma. So anyway, but as we reflect on this verse, and this purport, Prabhupada first talks about the irregularity of cheating religions and the principle of surrendering. So I was just thinking of this story once my actually mother-in-law shared with me, and how general, maybe you can call Hinduism or some general communities, especially if you come to Leicester in certain communities, you might find this. It's a bit like this. I don't know if many of you are kind of accustomed to knowing about maybe Hindu Vedic weddings, and when the daughter-in-law is received at home for the first time coming after they've been married, there's a ceremony called Pokwa. So the mother-in-law, what she has to do is that because the husband and the wife, they've been the center of attention, they've looked very beautiful. So now she wants to get rid of the evil eye. Okay, the anyone who's looked at him in a envious way or whatever on that special day. So she gets all this paraphernalia and gets it all ready. She tells the husband, get A, B, C, D, E, F, G for the paraphernalia. I need to get this ready and offer this before the new daughter-in-law walks in to the home. So the daughter-in-law is thinking, in 20 years' time, I may also have to do this. So she starts observing. She thought, I better watch this. What the mother-in-law is doing. So she's watching very carefully. So the husband is got the paraphernalia, and she starts the ceremony. And as she starts the ceremony, a rat goes by. So she takes note. And then what happens 20 years down the line, she starts doing the ceremony for her new daughter-in-law. And then she tells her husband, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all these items, plus a rat, please. Yeah. So that becomes now the ceremony and the prayog for that ceremony. Then another 20 years down the line, there's a new daughter-in-law. Of course, there's a parampara in the family, right? Okay. And then the new daughter-in-law is received, and she's observing. So she can see that mother-in-law has asked for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then she's got a rat. But what comes behind a rat? Cat. So the new ceremony 20 years later has evolved. And it's now A, B, C, D, E, F, G, a rat plus a cat. And then 20 years later, another 20 years later, the parampara evolves. And what comes after a cat? A dog. So now the ceremony is now A, B, C, D, E, F, G, rat, cat, dog. And what comes after a dog? Man's best friend, right? Okay. In the UK, anyway. So this goes on like this. So this is sometimes we can see that people are simply observing by watching and they get confused and they're not actually learning by hearing. And therefore things become disturbed. That's one aspect. And of course, Prabhupada in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita very nicely makes a really nice statement. I'm paraphrasing here. He says that religion without philosophy is like fanaticism. So sometimes we see a statement and we go for, we don't know the real context, we don't know for the philosophy, we can't understand it philosophically, and we go to some extreme level and promoting it and we go mad and we don't really understand it, right? And then Prabhupada says in the same sentence, or the next sentence, he says, philosophy without religion is speculation, right? So also that's another cheating religion, right? That we start to speculate and to create and make our own things up. That was a nice statement. I thought that goes with these irreligious points. And then we can look at even, maybe sounds contradictory, we could even look at the yoga ladder. We could look at the different aspects that even Krishna talks about and look at it in relevance today. So if we look at the starting of the different yogic practices that exist in the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas, and one of the first ones that we generally talk about is, which the majority of the Vedas cover, is Karma Kanda, right? Now Karma Kanda is a materially motivated religion, you could say. It's the worship of the devatas. Krishna talks about it very directly in chapter 9 and chapter 7, where he says, according to their material desires, I make them steady. He doesn't disturb them just because someone has a material desire. He makes them steady in the worship of some devata or some demigod. However, if you look at even that practice today, that practice is not really in place. And generally, when you ask a person who's maybe from that kind of practitioner, they'll say, in Gujarati, they'll say, Badai ekche. That means everybody is one. Doesn't matter who you worship, right? So they're already misidentifying with even the essence of karma, even karma kanda in itself, because everyone is one, everyone leads. Doesn't matter who you worship, Krishna, Shiva, Durga, whatever. Everything is one. But that's very clearly absolute clear misunderstanding, as per the Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna is very clear in his position. Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarvam prabhatate iti mat bhajante ma buddha bhava samanvitaha. So he's very clear on his position of who he is, his identity, and his relationship with the rest of the world. So that is also a difficult. So that's karma kanda. Or karma yoga, we can look at it in a different, before I even go to the detail, we can look at it from 3 aspects. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. We can divide, Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3. And a nice way that we can understand that and understand the principles of that, which I heard a story many years ago by some devotees, which I picked up, was of a person who loses his wallet or loses some gold. And there's 3 people who find this wallet. The first one sees the wallet and he says, yes, I've got some Lakshmi. Let me go and enjoy. Let me go and buy myself a pint or something around the corner and have a jolly day, right? Enjoy it. Let's get merry. So that's a bit like, okay, that's probably a bit more heavy. That's probably a bit more ugra karma, but not quite karma yoga. But karma yoga is where someone still enjoys and gratifies something for their own materialistic pleasure, which may not be under the belt, but still somewhat pious activity to enjoy for their own gratification. Then you have jnana yoga. So this person, the next person comes and he finds the wallet and he thinks, oh, this wallet isn't mine, so I should just leave it, right? But what good is that? You've just left the wallet. It's not yours. Okay, that principle is right. Doesn't belong to you. But just leaving the wallet is no good. It doesn't solve the problem, right? So that's like the Gyanis, the impersonalists. They just want to detach and not do anything with material nature, not to utilize anything in any form. But then the final person who comes to find the wallet, he opens the wallet and he finds the address. And he finds that wallet and he returns it back to the owner. That's bhakti yoga. That's perfection. And even in the logical story sense, it's perfection because you're returning it back to the owner. It's the correct thing to do, right? So in this way, the bhakti yogi does the perfect thing by recognizing this wallet is not mine. He doesn't enjoy it, and he gives it back to the owner. So in this way, we can find Shri Mayapur Saci Bhagavan ki Jai. So going back to the different types of yoga, so karma kanda, we know that it's inspired by materially motivated religion. Therefore, it's people with many material desires who want to do it in a kind of a legal form, you can call it. Just like a drug dealer, on the street is a legal drug dealer, and a pharmacist you can call a legal drug dealer, right? So karma khand's a bit like the legal pharmacist who's still trying to enjoy things, but he's doing it legally to some extent. Yeah. And then you've got, after that, when one becomes a bit more exhausted with understanding that all of this is quite temporary, that person comes to maybe karma yoga. And when he comes to the position of karma yoga, then one may be practicing one of the two of shakama karma yoga or nishkama karma yoga. Nishkama is a bit more rare, generally shakama. And shakama karma yoga, when one comes to recognize that there is some higher being, there is some higher purpose, not necessarily Krishna, because they're still not really clear on what is Krishna, who is Krishna, the idea. But they understand there's some sort of higher purpose. So what they do, they go to work. We all go to work, right? We go to work, earn some money, £100, let's say, £50 for me and to my responsibilities, £50 left over, £20 for a higher, or £25 for a higher cause, £20 for me to go to Maldives, okay, or the Bahamas, or wherever it may be. Okay, so it's still in that enjoyment mentality for my enjoyment. But that giving aspect is generally to a higher cause, not quite Krishna, because it's karma yoga, is not karma yoga and Krishna consciousness. So therefore, but the floor of that, sometimes if you look at it today, in general, if you ask, I mean, I'm sure some of you maybe got uncles and people, when you ask them what is the meaning of the Gita, what do they say? What do they say? Do your duty. That's their conclusion of the Gita, right? Do your duty. So do your duty, but then you say, what about offering your fruits? No, not offering your fruits. Yeah. We'll leave the fruits. We'll keep the fruits. So in this time, sometimes the karma yoga also gets a bit messed up because they want to do their duty, but not offer their fruits. Right? Then after karma yoga, After one has come to maybe nishkama karma yoga, when one's been working and then that detachment is developed of not wanting to enjoy the fruits, then eventually one comes to jnana yoga, and then he starts to study and thinks, well, I've been working all this time, working so hard, like, like an ass or a dog, whatever it may be, and I should maybe study. I should now explore. I should maybe find out the absolute truth. So he goes on studying. However, the jnana yogi, he doesn't really practice. So therefore, when you don't practice, you end up speculating on what it means because you don't have that realization. So just like if I was studying medicine and I just studied the books, then what would happen is that because I've not been into medicine, into practice, I wouldn't have the realization of that service. So therefore, I'd be just speculating on what could happen to the patients and what they may look like exactly, and I'll be guessing because I've not had that realization. And the flaw of that today, of that part of Jnana Yoga, is the impersonal Mayavad philosophy. That's the religious connecting this to this verse. So the impersonalists are like this: they study, but they're into oneness. Of course, they don't look at the individuality or the individuality. They don't consider the individuality of the soul at the end of leaving this body. They simply consider becoming one with the Lord, and we lose our individuality. But of course, Krishna very much clears that up in Natomevham Jatu Nasam in chapter 2, text 12, I think, and also chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita 15, which one is it maybe? Where Krishna says, oh gosh, part and parcel, I forgot the verse now. What does he say? Prabhu, anyone? Yeah, yes. So Krishna says that he is eternal, we are an eternal fragmental part of himself, Ansa. So in this way, the Mayavads have, of course, created you could say, a cheating religion. And in that way, even impersonalism itself has been destroyed. Even the regular concept of impersonalism has been destroyed. And of course, Lord Chaitanya, or the CC, describes it as a very wicked religion indeed. So then we may look at, okay, so then the Jnani realizes at one point after many births, he comes to the point of maybe performing Ashtanga Yoga as well. And then he performs all these niyams. But of course, nowadays we look at these people who are trying to practice some type of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, they have no niyams. They have no rules. The preliminary rules of yoga are to, one, you got to be fearless to start with. You got to be celibate. These are preliminaries. You got to be fearless. You're going to end up going to the jungle. You got to meditate there and sit on the jungle. You got to be fearless, right? Because there could be a lion or a tiger and all sorts. So these are preliminaries even of Ashtanga Yoga. And today you will see that, for sure, these people who are trying to practice celibacy is not there to start with, right? And so on. So we can see that all these things, these practices, even though in the scriptures and people are trying to do them, they are kind of not quite there. Well, not quite there at all. And therefore, they have to be rejected. Yeah. And ultimately, we know the goal is Bhakti Yoga, where we can surrender to Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada talks about further in the purport, he says, one should simply follow the instructions of Krishna and surrender unto him. To do this, of course, one needs very good intelligence, which may be awakened after many, many births through good association with devotees and the practice of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada, in just that one line, gives the essence completely. Intelligence, as we were reading yesterday, the 4 seed verses of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna really talks about how he gives intelligence and how the devotee worships him with intelligence. Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarvam parvatade iti mata bhajantaman Buddha bhava samanvita Buddha. With his intelligence, he worships Krishna with all their hearts. And even as we go along the next three verses, Krishna's talking about intelligence. As one constantly serves him, he gives the intelligence to come to him, to understand him, right? And how does he do that? The 10:11, I call it the surgery verse, where Krishna, with himself, with the lamp of knowledge, due to our sincerity, destroys all darkness and gives us the intelligence to understand him. So, although this can be a very slow process, as Krishna says in the 7th chapter, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyante Vasudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudalbha. So he says, after many, many births, one will come into knowledge of, I'm paraphrasing the translation, come to knowledge of Vasudevam, who's the cause of all causes. This person is very rare. Yes, he's a Mahatma, he's a great soul, and he's very rare. So this may take many, many births. And I have a little story connecting to that, and how the devotee is extremely merciful. Even if we're not going up the ladder, this story kind of is going down the ladder in one sense, but still, by the mercy of the pure devotee, this person actually achieves a position of becoming a great devotee. So there's a pastime with Narad Muni and a pastime with a person called Kailash. Now, Kailash was very much attached to his home, material life, and so on. And Narad Muni once came to visit him. And he visited him and he said, Kailash, hey, I'm on the way to Vaikuntha. Would you like to come? He goes, Narada, Narada, I'm very busy. I've got my kids to look after. Sorry, not today. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. Is that okay? Narad Muni goes off. Hare Krishna, goes off. Narad Muni comes back after some time later. He says to Narada, and he says to Kailash, hey Kailash, I'm on the way back home to Vaikuntha. Would you like to come with me? He says, no, I've got, grandkids to look after, busy man and all that, sorry, maybe next time. Narad Muni, Hare Krishna, goes off. School run, okay. and then Narad Muni comes back and he gets to know that there is no more Kailash in that body. But in the background, he hears a barking noise. Ruff! Ruff! I'm Kailash. Narada, welcome. And Narada is shocked and he says, hey, what happened to you, dude? He goes, I'm my kids now, they've earning a lot of money and I'm okay, and they've banked it, but I'm a bit concerned with the security. So I'm here to defend the house and protect the house and make sure that no thieves come. So Narada said, okay, but you know what? I'm on the way to Vaikuntha. Would you like to come with me? No, sorry, I'm busy. I've got to secure the house. I've got to look after everything. So Narada goes, Chalo, what can we do? Hare Krishna. Off he goes. Then, sometime later, Narada comes back. There's no more dog. So Narada's looking. He's suspected there'll be no more dog with a short life, generally. And then he hears in the grass, in the fields, a hissing noise. I'm Kailash, Narada, welcome. So Narada's like, what's happened to you? You've become a snake. He goes, yeah, the children have secured the house. They know how to manage but now I'm concerned with the fields because the next door neighbor's elephants keep crushing all the crops. And there's some thieves that come now and again. So if I'm a snake just hanging around, they'll be scared and they'll never come. Narada just holding his head, he clapped and he called out his grandsons and sons, and he said, "Snake, snake, snake." And they started beating the snake. And Kailash is like, "No, I'm your father, I'm your grandfather, don't beat me." And they just killed the snake. But the glory of this pastime is that he remembered Narada Muni. And because of Narad Muni's mercy, and he remembered Narad Muni, he got a birth of a great devotee in his next life. So that is the mercy of the devotees. We can go from Ugra Karma or Karma Kanda straight to Bhakti Yoga and be on that platform very quickly, just through the Bhakta and the Bhakti and the process. By this, we can very quickly achieve Krishna consciousness, and ultimately, as we can very quickly surrender to the Lord, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja Mamekam Sharanamaja Aham Tavam Sarve Papebhyo Moshayama Sucha. So, like this, as Prabhupada kindly gives us this verse and explains. So, how do we do this? How can we remain really fixed and sincere? Well, the other day I was hearing some pastimes from Mahabharata, and of course, Arjun, a very dear devotee of Krishna, a very fixed devotee of Krishna, a very pure devotee of Krishna. And I was hearing the pastime of when they were in the Gurukul with Dronacharya. And Dronacharya asked all the children, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, he asked both of them to pierce the eye of the bird, the fake bird, in the tree. And he asked all of them, "What do you see?" So first of all, he asked Yudhishthir. And he asked Yudhishthir, "Hey Yudhishthir, what do you see?" Yudhishthir said, "I see the bird, I see the bird's eye, and I also see the clouds." And Dronacharya said, he didn't tell him to fire. He said, "Okay, you can stop there." And he's like, "What have I done wrong?" "No, no, don't worry. That's where you're at." Then he asked Bhima, "What do you see?" Bhima said, "I see the bird, I see the eye, and I see the mangoes at the back." So Bhima's intention was, his goal was that he could see his prashadam, right? He could see the mangoes, the beautiful mangoes in the background. Then Duryodhan was asked. So he was asked, and what could he see? He said, "I can see the eye, I can see the bird, I can see the clouds, I can see the tree, I can see the sky, I can see the bird, I can see everything basically." So basically, he could see everything, and that was a display of him showing that he wanted everything. Yeah. And then he asked Arjun, "Arjun, what do you see?" Arjun said, "I can only see the eye of the bird. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja." He could only see the goal. He could only see that. Everyone else was seeing something else and more. They had some other desires, other intentions, and so on. But Arjun had one focus, and that was the eye of the bird. So we can take some teachings from the Mahabharata, from Arjuna. Also, Arjuna, of course, we can stay focused, but also we have to be well practiced. And there's another pastime from the Mahabharata where in the middle of the night, what happened is that Arjuna was woken up. He was, because he heard some dishes in some kitchen falling down or some noise. And he went looking, and it was pitch black. And then he found Bhima was eating in the dark. And he was just amazed how Bhima could eat in the dark so perfectly and reach his mouth with perfection without, hitting himself, or just, he was just so perfectly eating his laddus basically, or something like that anyway. And Arjun was like, "This is amazing." He goes, now, he was so inspired that he said that I'm now going to practice my archery to become perfect all night. And that's where he gets his name of Buddhakesha, which means one who conquers sleep. So therefore he did the practice at night. So practice has to be like this. Of course, we may not manage the night. We may try to do it early morning. But practice has to be like that. It has to be very, very with enthusiasm and some great passion there. So I thought I'll stop there. I think we're at 8:30. It's good timing. And please do share some reflections, comments, questions, and obviously there's a Daksha Krishna here, a senior devotee. So hope everything was okay for you. Hare Krishna. There's anything? Otherwise, I'm sure everyone's. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the nice stories. Very, very enlivening. The first story at the start, he was mentioning about the changing of standards. They introduced the rat and then the cat and the dog. So I'm just worrying when we get to this point where it's changed so much, how do we bring it back to the original standard?
Well, I was probably more talking about general kind of Hinduism there in terms of that. But sometimes even in our communities, we can end up adding stuff. But Prabhupada's given us he's given us the Shastra. Prabhupada, if we stick to Prabhupada's books and simply follow them, we'll be very happy. It's complete. We have these kind of sometimes, you can say, without criticizing, immature devotees may claim that, it's not all there. But generally those who say it's not all there haven't read the books. I find. But those who have very sincerely read the books, you'll easily be able to see that devotee and connect with them, and they'll be able to explain things generally very nicely and be very compassionate upon you. But you see those things. When people haven't read, it opens up to speculation, right? Because you don't know, and because you don't know, it opens up speculation, and it creates all these other things. Like that. So Prabhupada's books, it's just, I think, a simple answer in that sense. Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, but
we have the great fortune of Prabhupada disciples that are leaving books.
Yes.
And the books are helping us to access the books, because we may not. If you read As I Surrender Unto Me by Bodhijan Prabhu, you see how he really goes into the Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charan and Shiva Ram Raj and Vaisheshika Prabhu, and they really open things up. So it behooves us now as the grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada to take shots of his disciples, and they can help us to understand better Srila Prabhupada's teachings,
Yeah, Tadvini Pranipatena. That's the way to understand through the devotees, Tattva Darshana. That's how we can understand. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Yeah, okay.
Can you give some example of irreligion practice currently?
Yeah, so that was some of the things that I gave. I was giving some. So, of course, Mayavad is a direct irreligious. In that sense, it's a cheating religion, because it's not even, you could say, real impersonalism, right? Because it's concocted with becoming one and so on. So that's considered to be like that. And of course, there are people who use, if you got, like I said, Ashtanga yoga, but people have their own concepts of Ashtanga yoga, even things like that, right? So people create their own cheating religions in that sense. And in the end, unfortunately, people get cheated because they're not even practicing as the prescription. So they don't get the real result. Yeah. Well, it's part of the ladder if you're practicing at least properly for that. But still, if you look at all the other practices, still they have to be given up. Because pure bhakti is without the goal is to please Krishna, free from any material motivation, and free from speculation. So if you look at the other things on the ladder, even still, they are materially motivated, and they are still a cause of material speculation. Oh, okay. No, I mean, everyone has its time, place, and circumstances. Everyone has its, we can't say. However, there is incompleteness because they don't really recognize in detail the personality of Godhead. So they'll never really understand this aspect of pure bhakti completely, We can't say that they don't have something, because they have something, and there's somewhere. But it's time, place, and circumstances. And the example I tend to always give, because just of my personal experience, is that you can look at it in this way, and just to compare Abrahamic and Vedic, is in Christianity it says that they look at the kingdom of God, but they don't really know about the king, or what he looks like, or what he does. In Islam, it talks about, it even mentions that Allah sits on the throne. You might have a big debate if you tried that one, but Allah, it says, there's a verse, Allah sits on the throne. So if Allah sits on the throne, that's getting a bit closer to what we're thinking, right? In Vaikuntha. But then in the Vedic scriptures, in the Bhagavatam and so on, it's revealed in terms of, he's a king in a kingdom, sitting on a throne, and this is what he looks like, and this is how he's served. So you see that we can't say completely, but there's a level of understanding, a level of consciousness. Yeah. So maybe after many, many births of them trying that, they'll hopefully one day, some devotee hopefully will go by and chant Hare Krishna and give that mercy, or give them a book, and that will change their direction completely. So yeah, it's still as part of the spiritual evolution to some extent. Yeah. No, pretentious. Pretentious means like what? Like you're overdoing it, right? You're like you're bigging it up, and it's not real. Yeah, like that kind of thing. So yeah, there are some. No, I wouldn't personally say that's pretentious. Of course, there may be practitioners that may do certain things in certain ways in all practices. Yeah, and that's why I come back to the point that Prabhupada makes in chapter 3. Religion without philosophy becomes fanaticism, right? And philosophy without religion is speculation. So that can be your kind of diagnosis as well. You can use just that sentence from chapter 3 from Prabhupada as a diagnosis to recognize something as well. This is ways, and of course you can do it in different ways. Yeah, and then the real thing here that Prabhupada gives in this purport for us is that it may take many births to us to even realize and understand all these things, but Krishna gives us the intelligence, and all we need to do is use that intellect right now by saying, Krishna, I know you're the supreme. I'm going to do what I can for you. I'm going to surrender to you, and Krishna will deal with the rest inside. He'll give us that within through the mercy of the devotees and so on. So we have, as long as we can read these books and try to intellectually understand, we can eventually, that will come to us. Yes, Prabhu, please.
Goswami says niyama agraha. So niyama
Yeah.
is all the rules and regulations. Agraha is you're too keen to follow them. Or agraha means that you can't be bothered following them because you don't really understand. So you're generally fine with fanatics. The duality of fanaticism is that they're very whimsical.
Yeah.
So we had one devotee, he was so into the rules and regulations. And we asked him one time, why are you like that? He said, because if I'm not like that, go completely the other way. And he did. He ended up being a traffic warden and eating meat again. So he didn't really understand that the middle road is a balance, not too strict, but not too loose, because you understand what the principle is behind all the rules and regulations is to remember Krishna and not forget him. And if a rule gets in the way, then you remember Krishna, so that becomes the overriding consideration.
Yes, that's good expanded. But Nectar of Instruction gives nice descriptions of these points that Prabhu's made. So very nice. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there is a version of Upasampa. Yeah, that can also he calls it Upadharma. I think the next verse gives in the purport gives explanation of all of these 5 points, of all of these 5 irreligious practices, and he gives the next verse that he gives. So he says, Upadharma, this is a new type of religion created by one who is falsely proud and who opposes the principles of the Vedas is called Upadharma. New religion, creates your own, speculated, right? Philosophy without religion. Yeah. Okay.
Is there, sorry, just last one maybe. Is there any connection with 7.15 we were discussing yesterday, like 4 types of people who
Oh, you mean chapter 7, the 4 types of people that don't come to Krishna?
Don't come to Krishna.
Yeah, you can connect them, can't you?
So do they get into all these types of religion? Or
They,
not necessarily?
They don't terribly. Yeah, they could do. I mean, I guess. Well, well, they're the ones who don't tend to even generally even tend to. And he's like the grossly foolish. He's not really bothered, is he? He hasn't got a religion. He's just engaged in. Okay, 4 varnas. Okay,
So the Kshatriya is the Asuric leader.
Okay.
The Brahmin is the Mayaparita Jnana.
Yeah.
The Mudha is the Shudra, is the gross out. And then the Naradama is the sophisticated sense enjoyer.
Okay. Amazing. Okay.
So he's the Vaishya.
Nice.
So those 4 varnas still remain, but that's them in a degraded form.
Yeah. Without Krishna in the center.
Very good pastime of
Mhm.
where he tries to clear the upper sampradayas. And like almost it took his life as well. Like there was one, I think of some tantric or something, and he tries to confront him. And actually,
Bhagwan.
yeah. So there are, I mean,
Baba.
he tried to clear so many upper sampradayas in his life. He tried to do that. So that's to establish, so that to declutter the religion and then establish the real Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara.
Yeah, I mean the acharyas have done the hard work. We've got it on the plate, right? We just got to present it to others. Simple as that. We've got. Anyway, I think devotees are hungry now. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaura Premanande.